everyone, welcome to GOIS. Today we will be discussing about citizenship in India, and along with that we will understand very briefly what was the constitution amendment which was done in it in 2019. So this will be a very short explanation about the Citizenship Amendment Act. There will be a very small discussion since we've already covered it in the offline classes. Now let us understand something before getting into the chapter. Now, if you remember, India had become independent in the year 1947. After getting independent, in fact, before independence, as per the Indian Independence Act, it was said that India would be divided into two parts. There would be one of India and there would be a different nation state of Pakistan. Now, India was created on secular grounds. India had a very secular constitution as we've seen in the preamble. And Pakistan, which we have, was actually created on basis of a particular religion, and that is Islam. So now it happened so that at the commencement of the Constitution of India, the only thing that actually concerned Indians was that who belongs to India and who doesn't belong to India. For obvious reasons, that there were many non-secular elements which actually would have taken a very wrong toll on public order, law and order, and safety of the people of India. Now, because of this, the Constitution of India only talks about citizenship till to 26th of January 1950. Okay. After this, the citizenship in India is dealt by the Citizenship Amendment Act of 1955. Let's just see it in a little more detail. So as I told you, in India, citizenship is dealt in two parts. One is done by the Constitution of India, which deals with citizenship only till the 26th of January to 1950. After this, citizenship in India is dealt with the Citizenship Act of 1955. Now, the Constitution of India has citizenship in Part 2 of the Constitution, Article 5 to Article 11. Now, what we are going to do is, we are going to be discussing these articles in detail. So, by the end of the video, you will be well versed with what each article is telling you. After that, we would be dealing with what are the ways in which a person can acquire the citizenship of India, which is dealt with in the Citizenship Amendment Act. Okay, thanks. So, let's get started. Now let us discuss Article 5 of the Constitution. So Article 5 of the Constitution says, Article 5 says that the person should have a domicile in India. By domicile, I mean that the person should have a permanent residence in India. Right? So we mean to say that the person should have a permanent house in India, and this permanent house would actually result in the person being a permanent resident of India. So Article 5 says that the person, if he wants to be a citizen of India, should have a house in India. Along with this, and, so you see this word and, so this is exactly what I'm reading from the Constitution. So number one, the person should be a domicile in India. He should have a permanent house in India. So for example, you must be seeing that, people move to the USA and people move to London or UK or any place in the world to work, right? But then those people are still a citizen of India. That the reason is that they have a permanent house in India. That is the first reason. Now, along with that person should be born in India. In case he is not born in India, any one of his parents, either his mother or his father, should be born in India. So any of the parents can have to be born in India. Apart from this, if these two are not concerned, the person should be residing in India. He should be staying in India for 5 years immediately before 26th of January 1950. So Article 5 of the Constitution is telling us that either you should have a permanent house in India, and along with this, you either have to be born in India, your parents should be a citizenship of India, either one of your parents, or you should be residing in India for 5 years immediately. Great. Okay. Now after this, we will go to Article 6 of the Constitution. Now, before going into more details, I would just like to make a quick summary of what Article 5 says and what Article 5 to 11 says. So, Article 5, as we've already discussed, is talking about a person being domiciled in India. It's talking about a person being domiciled in India. Okay. Now, Article 6 over here is talking about migration from India to Pakistan. You can write it like this so that you can remember this. Article 7 deals with reverse migration. Article 7 deals with reverse migration. So it talks about people who went from India to Pakistan and then back from Pakistan to India. After this, we will be dealing with Article 8 of the Constitution. Now, Article 8 of the Constitution deals with registration. Okay, it talks about registration. So let's first remember from Article 5 to number 8. Now, Article 5 to 8. Now, Article 5, as we've already discussed, is about domicile of people from India to Pakistan. Okay, it's about domicile of people having a permanent house in India. Now, Article 6 deals with migration of people. Now, let's read about Article 6. Now, Article 6 tells us there is only one particular date. So, it tells us, and this date is the 19th of July 1948. So Article 6 tells us that, see, if you are born in India, okay, if you are born in India, if your parents are born in India, either your grandparents are born in India, okay, and you have come to India before 1946, before 1948, 19th of July 1948. In that case, I will give you what is known as automatic citizenship. I will give you automatic citizenship. Okay, automatic citizenship. Now, if you have come to India after the said date, if you've come to India after the 19th of July 1948, then then the same qualities have to be fulfilled. That is, you have to be born, your parents have to be born, your grandparents have to be born. If not, if this does not happen, you have to stay in India for at least 6 months after migration. After this 6 months, you will have to go to a competent authority. What is the word used? The word is competent authority. Now you'll ask me, ma'am, why is it written as competent authority? Why do we not call it the parliament? Because we know that whatever the parliament does, right? We know that whatever is dealing with citizenship will be dealt by the parliament. So why not the parliament? See, now these articles were made in 1950, when citizenship was a very, very bleak thing. So it was very bleak. People did not know how to deal with it. It was a very new thing that India was dealing with. It was something that many other countries had not dealt with before, because India had a large number of people whom had to be categorized as citizens and non-citizens. So the constitution then was yet to decide who will take care of the question of citizenship. That is the reason that the word competent authority has been maintained. So again, summarizing Article 6, Article 6 gives us one date which is known as the 19th of July 1948. Now whatever happens is circled around this date. So it says that yes, you should be born, either your parents should be born in India, either your grandparents should be born in India. So if you migrated to India before 19th of July 1948, okay, you would be given automatic citizenship. We'll automatically make you a citizen of India. In case you have come to India after the 19th of July 1948, you will have to stay in India for at least 6 months. And after staying in India for 6 months, we will be referring you have to go to a competent authority who would then grant you citizenship. Okay. Okay. Now let's go to the next article. Now let's go to Article 7. Now, if you remember, Article 5 deals with what is known as domicile. Okay, I'm just revising again and again so that you can remember these. So, Article 5 deals with domiciled in India. Okay, Article 6 deals with the migrated people. Either you come to India from Pakistan. Okay, that case. Article 7 here is talking about reverse migration. Okay, is talking about reverse migration. Now, in case the people have migrated to India See, there have been people who were from Pakistan and they came to India. These people are covered by Article 6. Then there were people who moved from India to Pakistan, okay, and then again they came back to India when they saw that the things were not favorable over there. So in that case, Article 7 has been created. Now it is said that we will give citizenship to people who had migrated to Pakistan after the 1st of March 1947. So in case you migrated to Pakistan after the 1st of March, but then you have returned under a permit. See, this is the most important word, that you have returned under a permit. You've come to India with permission, okay, and this permission is for permanent settlement in India, okay, permanent settlement or return, okay. So let's remember this again. So in case you have gone to Pakistan, okay, you migrated to Pakistan after the 1st of March 1947, okay, and then you decide to come back to India with a permanent permit of resettlement or permanent return. So you will get the same treatment for people, you will get the same treatment for people who were, you will get same treatment for people like the people in Article 6. So if you've come after 1st of March 1947, you've gone to Pakistan, okay. After 1947, you will have to stay here for 6 months, okay. You will have to stay here for 6 months, and after this you need to go to a competent authority, okay. The competent authority will look at your permit to come to India for permanent resettlement, and henceforth he will be offering you the citizenship of India. Now after this comes Article 8. Now Article 8 tells us is, so Article 5, Article 6, Article 7 deals with the citizenship of India between India and Pakistan, okay. It is talking about a divided country. Now if you remember, during the time of independence, there were many people who were actually staying out of the country. Many freedom fighters had left India and had gone to nations outside and were staying over there. So this act seemed to address those people. So Article 8 tells us that in case you are born in India, your parents are born in India, or your grandparents are born in India, you will be deemed as an Indian citizen. Great. Now, if you are abroad, okay, if you go abroad, you are staying abroad, and you are still registered. How can you become a citizenship of India? So you are registered, you are already registered as a citizen of India, okay. To register yourself, you have to go to the nearby Indian consulate or the nearby Indian embassy, okay, and there you can straightforwardly say that I am an Indian citizen and I want to remain an Indian citizen, and for that I want to register myself. So you would be registered as a citizen of India. Now, after this, in case there is a minor child, so it might happen, right, that a person goes abroad and he has a minor child outside. So in that case, it is said. So in that case, that person can be treated as a can. So that person can, he might have his own children. So to register these children as citizen of India, these people have to give a parents undertaking to the embassy and tell the parents that the parents need to tell the embassy that I want my minor child to be a citizen of India. So please accept my application. So Article 8 deals with people who are people of Indian origin residing outside India. All right. So this deals. So we've already discussed Article 5. We've already discussed Article 6, Article 7 and Article 8. Article 5 was about domicile in India. Article 6 was about migration from Pakistan to India. Article 7 was a reverse migration, like India to Pakistan and then again India. And then Article 8 deals with the registration of people who were not citizen of India. Now we will be discussing about Article 9. Now, Article 9 talks about giving up of citizenship, whereas Article 5, 6, 7, 8 is talking about conferring of citizenship. Article 9 is dealing with the taking away of citizenship. So the word is, whenever a person voluntarily gives up his citizenship. So for example, there is a particular individual X. Now X goes to, say, USA, okay, and he applies for the citizenship over there. He applies for the citizenship of USA, okay. So Article 9 and say USA tells him that for 10 years, you will have to stay in India, you will have to stay in America, and after 10 years, we will be giving you the citizenship. So this person X will remain a citizen and say he's gone to USA in 2000 and this is the year 2010. Okay, 2010 he will get the citizenship. So this person X will remain as a citizen of India till 2010 until he does not obtain the American citizenship. The minute he is conferred with the citizenship of America, the Indian citizenship will automatically be revoked. Indian citizenship will automatically be revoked. So when we see that Article 5, 6, 7 and 8 is talking about conferring of citizenship, Article 9 is talking about taking it away. So Article 9 tells us that you cannot hold the citizenship of two countries. You cannot be a citizen of America and a citizen of India at the same point of time. So Article 9 is talking about taking away of citizenship from a person who has obtained the citizenship of another country. So it directly tells us that there will be no dual citizenship in India. There will be no dual citizenship in India. Perfect. Now we are going to discuss Article 10. Okay, now we will be discussing about Article 10. So Article 10 of the Constitution tells us that if a person, just mark my words very carefully, a person will be deemed to be a citizen of India unless he is disqualified. Again, I'm repeating this sentence. A person shall be deemed to be a citizen of India unless disqualified. Now, by this I mean that you are a citizen of India, and in case say you've taken up a double citizenship, okay, or in case I come to know that say you've taken up a double citizenship, I shall take away your citizenship. Okay, that's under Article 9. Now, just imagine that there is a particular person who stays in India, but he's been say giving information to he's been giving information to our enemies. Okay, that is, if you remember, at that point of time India and Pakistan was there, and there was a lot of secretive information that was going on in India and Pakistan. So in case you are an Indian citizen and you're giving away my personal things to the other country, I will take away your citizenship. Okay, so we will disqualify you. You are a citizen until you are not disqualified. Okay, okay. After this, we finally have Article 11 of the Constitution. Okay, and Article 11 says that the power to determine the citizenship of India, okay, the power to regulate the right of citizenship, okay, after this particular date, after the date of 26 January 1950, will lie with the Parliament of India. So if you remember, we had Article 6 and Article 7, which was speaking about competent authority. So Article 11 said that the competent authority will be set up by the Parliament of India. So that if there is any issue regarding your citizenship, those authorities which will be constituted or appointed by the Parliament will take care of it. Okay. Now, when the Parliament got this power, that it would take care of the right of citizenship in India, it enacted the Citizenship Act of 1955. Okay, so let us now quickly summarize what each act was doing. Now these acts are very, very important for us to remember. Okay, and for this you have to remember what each act was telling you. So let me give a quick summary of what we've done till now. We were talking about the citizenship in the Constitution of India. Okay, where is it mentioned in the Constitution? It is given in part 2 of the Constitution. Okay, Article 5 to Article 11. Okay, great. Okay, so now we have Article 5, which says that you have to be a domicile in India. You have to be a domicile in India. That is, you have to have a permanent residence in India, a permanent house in India. Along with that, either you should be born in India, either of your parents should be born in India, okay, and you should be residing in India for 5 years before 26th of January 1950. Article 6 gives us another date. Okay, Article 6 gives us a date which is known as the 19th of July 1948. It gives us a day 19th of July 1948, and it gives us two options, before and after. Okay, so if you are in India before this particular date, you've come from Pakistan to India before this particular date, all right, you will be given automatic citizenship. In case you have come to India after this date, you have to stay in India for 6 years, for 6 months, and then you can approach a particular authority. Then we have Article 7, okay, which has brought another date for us, that is the 1st of March, okay, the 1st of March 1947, okay, and it is talking about reverse migration. So it tells us that if you come to India, okay, if you have returned to India before the 1st of March 1947 from Pakistan, we will give you automatic citizenship, okay. If you've come to India after this date, you also have to stay, just like the people in Article 6, you also have to stay in India for 6 months, then go to a competent authority and then apply for citizenship, okay. We have Article 8 after this, which is talking about foreign people. It is talking about foreign people in India, okay, foreign citizens in India. And the foreign people, I mean the people who are of Indian origin but are staying outside. So we gave them an option of also applying for Indian citizenship. So like these people had an option of going to the embassy, to their local embassy, to apply for Indian citizenship, to register themselves. So it's talking about registration. And in case they had small young minor children, they could also register them with the parents undertaking. Now while Article 5, 6, 7 and 8 is talking about conferring citizenship on a particular person, Article 9, 10 and 11, okay, Article 9 is talking about taking it away. So Article 9 says that there will be no dual citizenship. You cannot be the citizen of two countries together. That is the major thing. And in case you become a citizen of another country, the citizenship of India will automatically revoke. Then we have Article 10 with us. So Article 10 tells us that you will be a citizen of India. You will be a citizen of India. Okay. You will be deemed as a citizen of India until you are disqualified. Okay. So it's actually telling a person that we will consider you to be a citizen until you are not disqualified for it. Okay. And Article 11, okay, Article 11 gives the power to the parliament to take care of all the rights of citizenship, right? So with this power, the parliament did what? The parliament enacted the Citizenship Amendment Act of 1955, all right? Now the Citizenship Act of 1955 was enacted by the Parliament to take care of any citizenship matter. It was technically to confer citizenship and to take it away. So by the Citizenship Act of 1955, the Parliament uh, the Parliament has given us two ways. So one by which we can determine our citizenship, okay, and the other by way we can take it away. Now let's try to understand each and everything. The first term which it says is birth. Okay, so it's telling us the first thing that you have to remember is that there is birth. Okay, by birth there is another term which is attached to it. This term is known as jus soli. Okay, jus soli. So jus soli usually means by birth. So we are going to, so by this, the parliament is telling the person that in case you are born on the soil of India, okay, you are jus soli. You will be given citizenship by the virtue of jus soli. Okay. Then there is descent. The word descent actually comes with the word jus sanguine. Okay. Jus sanguine. Jus sanguine means by blood. So a simple thing that we can understand by here is, in case you are born in India, you will be a citizen of India by virtue of jus soli, that you will be given the citizenship of India because you've been born over here. In case you are bound by blood to India, okay, we will give you citizenship by virtue of descent, by virtue of jus sanguine. Okay. Then there is registration. Okay. There is registration. There is incorporation or acquisition of property, okay, acquisition of land, and then we have naturalization. Can we not write it like this? So B birth, R registration, okay, A acquisition, N naturalization, and D descent. Don't you think we can write it down like this? So if you remember the word of brand, you will remember what the Citizenship Act of 1955 is telling you. So this is not by, do not think like this that it is actually in sequence. So I've just mentioned this word for you to remember whenever you're trying to remember it. So it's given by, BDRAN. Okay? So you can either remember it like that, or I have started remembering it by the word of brand. Okay? Now let's start understanding what it's saying. Okay. So we are going to first understand what does the act mean when it's telling that you are going to be given citizenship by birth. So this first point, let's talk about the birth point. Okay. Now the Citizenship Amendment Act of 1955 is telling us that in case you are born in India, okay, if in case you are born in India between the dates of 26th of January 1950 and to the 1st of July 1987, you are automatically a citizen of India. We are giving you automatic citizenship. Okay, we are giving you automatic citizenship. Even if your parents are within a part, if even if your parents are say citizens of Pakistan, and still if you've been born on the soil of India, okay, even if you're born on the soil of India, we will give you automatic citizenship. It is irrespective of where your parents are from. Okay, but if you're born in India after after the 1st of July 1987, we will give you citizenship only if your parents, either both your parents or either any one of your parents, are permanent citizens of India. Then only you will be getting the citizenship. Okay, that is clause number 1. So if you notice over here, we've got two dates. We have 26th of January 1950 to the 1st of July 1987. Okay, this is date number 1. Okay, so if you're born before this date, we will give you citizenship. If you're not born before this date, your parents have to be citizens of India. Okay, now after this, there is another date which they put here. In case you're born after the 3rd of December 2004, okay, in case you're born in December, after the 3rd of December 2004, uh, both your parents have to be a citizen of India. Both your parents have to be citizen of India, and or one individual should be a parent who should be a constitution of India, and the other parent should not be an illegal migrant, should not be an illegal migrant. Now try to understand what this act is telling you over here. So I'll just summarize it for you once. So we were discussing the Citizenship Amendment Act of 1955. The first clause was that a person has to be born in India. Now, this act again uses three dates as we've already discussed. The first date was the 26th of January 1950. The second date that we have to remember is the 1st of July 1987. After this, the third date that we have to remember is the 3rd of December 2004. Let's just summarize it once more for us to understand and get a better view and understanding of this. So in case a person is born between the 26th of January and the 1st of July 1987, okay, they will be citizens of India without any reference to their parents. That is, the parents can be citizen of any other country. Okay, they can be citizens of any other country. The Indian government doesn't care. In case you're born in India, you become a citizen of India. Now, in case you're born in India after 1987, okay, that is up till 2004, you have to be born in India, and along with that, your parents, either one, okay, it has an either case, either one or both your parents should be citizen of India. This is the clause. Okay. But now what happens is, if you remember, there was a lot of refugee crisis in India during this time. And after this, what happened is that the government of India made a decision and said that both parents, if you are a child born in India, both your parents have to be citizens of India, Now, in case both your parents are not citizen of India, it should be like one person has to be a parent, one parent has to be a citizen, okay, and the other should not be an illegal migrant, okay. So in case your say your mother has or your parents have come, say one parent has come from Bangladesh, so say you are a citizen of West Bengal, okay, you are a citizen of India, you stay in West Bengal, say your daddy has married a Bangladeshi person, so this lady is of Bangladeshi origin, right? So if she is coming to India with a valid passport, she is applied for the citizenship of India and she is staying over here, it will say that it will say that yes, you can also be the citizen of India. So here we need to remember three dates: 26th of January, 1st of July, and 3rd of December. Now these dates are very difficult to remember. But you know what is the best part? That in case you just try to remember it once, it kind of gets into your mind and then you don't have to do it again and again and again. Alright? Now we will be discussing, we will be discussing what is the second parameter. So we've already discussed birth and now we are going to discuss descent. Alright? So this is the second that we are going to discuss. What is descent? Now we can understand that when I'm talking about the birth, we can understand that this person is born in India. But there are again some people in the world, you know, who are of Indian origin, right? And they are born outside India. In that case, we apply the term to them which is known as descent. Okay, we apply the term which is known as descent. Okay, and that means that this person, if I'm saying that I'm giving the citizenship to of India to some person, this person has to be born outside India. Okay, so this person is born outside India. Great. Okay, so now the first date that we need to remember. So you if you are born between 26th of January 1950, again at the time of the commencement of the constitution, and between the 10th of December, okay, 1992, you will be given as the citizenship of India in case your father, okay, if your father is a citizen of India. Ma'am, is it not talking about mother? No, it's not talking about mother. Here it is saying that if you're born outside India, okay, your father must be an Indian citizen. Then only we can give you the citizenship of India. All right. Now after this, in case you're born between the 10th of December 92, the 10th of December 1992, and the same date from the birth time, if you remember, the 3rd of December 2004. Okay, same date. Any one of your parents, because if you understand, by this time we were talking about gender equality in the world, right? So at that point of time it was said that either of your parents, either of your parents must be a citizen of India. Okay, must be a citizen of India, or, and along with this, you have to compulsorily, I mean your parent stays, say, in USA, okay, and say you are born on the 11th of December 92. Okay, so your parents have to go, and within 1 year, that is by the date of 11 December 1993, they should register your birth. If you remember the clause of registration in Article 8, so in the same way, the parent has to go to the embassy. He's staying outside, he goes to the embassy, and after going to the embassy, okay, he will have to, after going to the embassy, he will have to register your birth. This is what Article 8 is telling me about. This is what the descent part of the Citizenship Act of 1955 is telling me about. Alright. Okay, now we'll go forward. So now we've already discussed what birth means, okay, according to the Citizenship Act of 1955, and you understood how a person can acquire citizenship by the process of descent. So birth is talking about people who are born within the territory of India, and descent is about the people who have been born outside the territory of India. Perfect. Now let's go on to the next process. The next process that we would be discussing today is naturalization. Okay, so we would be dealing with naturalization as the third point. Now, when I'm saying that a person can become a citizen of India by the process of naturalization, I mean that that person should not be an illegal migrant. He should not be an illegal migrant. Okay. So the person should not be an illegal migrant, and he should not belong to any country which does not allow Indians to become a citizen in the country. So say that there is a person. I'm just giving a hypothetical example. Say this area by the name of London. Okay, say London. In London or England, they do not allow Indians to become citizens. Okay, now in the same way, India would not allow any person coming from England, any person coming from London, and they would not be allowed to be citizens of India. Okay, now in case you want to be a citizen of India, you have to renounce your previous citizenship. So for example, the person is coming from England. Okay, so he will obviously be a British citizen, right? So that person has to renounce being British citizen in order to become an Indian one. So he has to give up that citizenship. He has to give up that citizenship and then become an Indian, and then become an Indian citizen. Now this person, if in case he does not fit into any of these criteria, that is, he's not an illegal migrant, right? He is not from any country which does not allow an Indian to citizenship, and he does not allow any previous citizen, and he has renounced his previous citizenship, is now eligible to become an Indian citizen. Now to become an Indian citizen, he has to do two things. Okay, he has to do two things to become a citizen. The very first thing that he has to do is he has to have a good intention. That is, he should not come into India with an intention of, say, spying on the Indian governmental activities, right? He should just want to come to India to enjoy its rich cultural heritage, the beautiful scenes in India and everything. So I mean, his intention should be good. He should be admiring India, and that is the reason he wants to come and settle down over here. Okay. The second reason, and along with that, with the good intention that we will see, we will also see whether he knows any of the Indian languages. So by language, it does not mean any language that we are talking about. So we are talking about Schedule 8. We're talking about the 8th schedule, which has 22 Indian languages. So in case you want to become a citizen of India, okay, you should have a good intention. You should learn any one language out of 22 languages that are there, and along with that, you have to take an oath. Okay, an oath of good faith, an oath of becoming a good citizen of India. So after this entire process, okay, after like checking whether you do not qualify into any three of these, and you have a good intention, you have learned the language, right, and you have taken your oath, you have to stay in India for 1 year. You will have to stay in India for 1 year. After 1 year, you can apply for Indian citizenship. Now you apply. This is the precursor. So this is the precursor. We're just going to check what you're going to do. After this 1 year, you have to stay in India for a total of 11 continuous years. Okay, you have to be in India for continuously 11 years. Okay, initially it was like this. Now that then it was reduced that in 14 years. Okay, you have to stay in India 11 out of 14 years. So if in case you stayed in India for say 11 years, okay, on a continuous basis, congratulations, we will give you the citizenship of India. But in case you have to go abroad, there has to be some work, you're traveling for work purposes, you have to stay in India for at least 11 years out of a total of 14 years. In that case, we will be giving you the citizenship of India. So this entire process is the process of naturalization. Let me give you a gist of it once more. So we are discussing the process by which an Indian citizen can become a citizen by naturalization. Okay. So the person should not be an illegal migrant. Okay. You should not be an illegal migrant. Okay. You cannot have the citizenship of any other country. Okay. You cannot be a citizen of any other country. Okay. You have to renounce it. And along with that, you should not belong to such a country, which does not allow Indians. So these three are the disqualifying characteristics. Okay, so if you are an illegal migrant, you're from any other country, you have the citizenship of any other country, and still you want to be an Indian citizen, that is not possible. And you have to be from a country which also allows Indians. Then we will allow you to take Indian citizenship. Now, if this criteria is fulfilled, the person has to go in for now has to follow two steps. So in the first step, Okay, he has to show his good intention. He has to say why he wants to be a part of India. Okay, why he wants to be a part of India. He has to show good intention that, okay, fine, say I'm married to India, I have good land in India, I have a good business prospect in India, my intention is good, he'll be allowed. Along with that, he should know any one Indian language. Okay, now this Indian language can be from the 8th schedule, any one of the 22 languages in the Indian schedule. After this, he has to stay in India for 1 year. Okay, stay continuously in India for 1 year. After staying in India for 1 year, he can apply. Okay, now after application, there will be a time period of 14 years. Okay, and it will be checked that in this 14 years, if he stayed in India for 11 years, okay, if he stayed in India for a cumulative time period of 11 years out of 14 years, congratulations, he will be made the citizen of India. He will be made the citizen of India. Okay, so this is a criteria. It's a very serious criteria. It's a very difficult criteria to do, but with these, a person can get Indian citizenship. Now, in this case, his parents don't have to be a citizen of India. His grandparents do not have to be a citizen of India. You know, any person can come from any country. Say, even if the person is Irish and say he wants to come to India, you know, he wants to settle down in India. If he follows this criteria, he can become a citizen. Now, after this, we would be discussing acquisition of property or incorporation of territory within India. Okay, all right. Now, say the government of India has incorporated a particular, a particular place into its Indian territory. So now that place will definitely have some inhabitants in it. So these inhabitants will be given citizenship if that those people are in any way of Indian origin. Okay, so if you are of Indian origin in any way, your parents, grandparents, anyone was formerly a person who had the citizenship of India, we would be giving you Indian citizenship. Okay, so for that, so once you get into the citizen of India, you get into the country of India, you would have to stay in India, remain as a citizenship for 7 years. Okay, and after 7 years, we would see if you're getting married and you're getting settled down. Okay, you get married and you get settled down. These are the clauses in which we talk about incorporation. Now after this, yes, now after this act talks about removal of citizenship. Try to understand, we are talking about removal or taking away of citizenship. So a person can lose his citizenship because of three factors. So one is renunciation, okay, one is termination, and one is deprivation. Now when I'm saying renunciation, एक simple meaning है इसका कि मैं अपने citizenship को त्याग दे रही हूँ, right? I'm leaving my citizenship. मुझे अपना citizenship नहीं चाहिए. This is given in section 8. Section 8 of the Citizenship Act of 1955. After this, we have termination. So termination is there in section 9. Okay, and then we have deprivation. Okay, let me explain to you all of this. So one fine day, I write a letter to the parliament and I tell them कि मुझे citizenship यहाँ का नहीं चाहिए, मैं एक दूसरे country का citizenship ले रही हूँ. So what I'm doing is मैं अपने Indian citizenship को त्याग दे रही हूँ ताकि मुझे एक दूसरे country का citizenship मिले. Now that is dealt with in section 8 of the Constitution. Okay, section 8 of the Citizenship Act of 1955, which deals with renunciation. Perfect. Okay, so when I'm giving up my citizenship, when I'm becoming a citizen of another country, I'm leaving Indian citizenship, I am renouncing my citizenship of India. मैं India का citizenship त्याग दे रही हूँ. Now let us talk about termination. Termination का मतलब है कि इंडियन पार्लियामेंट ये बोल रहा है कि आप इंडियन सिटीजन बनने के लायक नहीं हो. तो वो क्या करता है, आपको बोलता है अब आपका सिटीजनशिप नहीं रहेगा, आपका सिटीजन हम रिवोक कर रहे हैं, टर्मिनेट कर रहे हैं, अब आप अपना ठिकाना कहीं और ढूंढ लीजिए. इट्स वेरी सिंपल. सो दे विल टर्मिनेट इट. और एक होता है बाय डेप्रिवेशन. समझ लीजिए, अगर एक पर्टिकुलर सिटीजन है, ओके, वो क्या करता है, इंडिया में करोड़ों का फ्रॉड करता है. ओके, करोड़ों करोड़ों का फ्रॉड करता है, राइट? बहुत सारे लोगों का लाइवलीहुड लेके जाता है, लेके इंडिया से भाग जाता है. तो पार्लियामेंट ऑफ इंडिया क्या करेगा? पार्लियामेंट ऑफ इंडिया बोलेगा कि इस पर्सन को हम अब इंडियन सिटीजन रहने नहीं देंगे. वी आर डिप्राइविंग हिम फ्रॉम ए सिटीजनशिप. अगर समझ लीजिए किसी इंसान ने कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ इंडिया के अगेंस्ट पे कुछ बोल दिया, that person will also be thrown away. समझ लो, अगर कोई इंडिविजुअल है जो इंडिया में आकर वो इंडियन सिटीजन है बट इंडिया में बॉम्ब ब्लास्ट करवा रहा है, इंडिया में अटैक्स करवा रहा है, सो थ्रू डेप्रिवेशन उन्हें हटा दिया जाएगा. ओके ओके. अब अगर बाय द वे कोई ऐसा इंसान है जो जिसने जिसका बच्चा हो गया, ओके, उसने रजिस्ट्रेशन अपने बच्चे का नहीं कराया, 2 years प्लस हो गया, बट वो उसने अपने बच्चे का रजिस्ट्रेशन नहीं कराया, उसे भी हम इंडियन सिटीजनशिप नहीं देंगे. ठीक है. और ऐसे लोगों को हम 2 साल के इम्प्रिजनमेंट भी देंगे. अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट, अगर कोई भी ऐसा इंडिविजुअल होता है जो एनिमी एलियन हो, इफ देयर इज एनी इंडिविजुअल हु इज एन एनिमी एलियन, ठीक है, एनिमी हो, समझ ले इंडिया के खिलाफ आपके से पाकिस्तान के रॉ को वो बहुत सारा इन्फॉर्मेशन दे रहा है, ठीक है, पाकिस्तान के ISIS को इन्फॉर्मेशन दे रहा है, सो दीज आर लाइक एनिमीज, राइट. तो ऐसे लोगों से भी पार्लियामेंट जो है वो आपका सिटीजनशिप छीन सकता है. ओके. So now we are going to discuss a very important concept which deals with Indian citizenship. So in India, we are primarily allowed only single citizenship in the country. Okay. By single citizenship, I mean that Indians would not be allowed to have citizenship of both the center as well as the state. So if you remember, we've dealt with dual citizenship, that is a person having the citizenship of 2 countries at the same time in Article 8, and then Article 9 over here, and then single citizenship over here says that an individual will have only one citizenship, and that is an Indian citizenship. So unlike America, unlike the USA, we will not be having 2 citizenships to deal with. So in the USA, what happens is that you are initially a member of the center, and then you're going to be a member of one of the states. All right. Okay, now this is different in case of Jammu and Kashmir, which we will be discussing in subsequent videos. Now, let's start off with the concept of a PIO, that is a person of Indian origin, and an OCI, an overseas citizen of India. We'll also be discussing the concept of an NRI. Okay, so now let us discuss a PIO first. So the first question which comes to our mind when we are actually discussing about a PIO and OCI. So now you will be asking me, ma'am, is a PIO and OCI holding dual citizenships? No. As per the Citizenship Amendment Act of 1955, we cannot have dual citizenships. We cannot have dual citizenships of both countries. It has been explicitly told to us in Part 2 of the Constitution and Article 8, as well as we are barred from having the citizenship of any other country. So in case we do that, we will in a way renounce the citizenship of India as per the Citizenship Amendment Act and will not be eligible. But now there is a very specific criteria, which has been told to us. The first is the OCI, the Overseas Citizen of India. Okay. Now, if there is any person, say of Indian lineage, that means say the person's father or the person's mother or the person's grandfather or grandmother is from India. Okay. Now the person has Indian lineage. Okay, so the key word here is the person has an Indian lineage. Okay, he has an Indian lineage. Okay, who actually, ma'am, is he a citizen of India? No. He is actually a foreign citizen. Okay, he is a foreign citizen of India who has Indian citizenship, who has Indian lineage. Great. He holds a foreign passport. He holds a foreign passport. He does not hold an Indian passport. He holds a foreign passport. Okay. This person, by virtue of his Indian lineage, would be given a multi-purpose lifelong visa. He would be given a multi-purpose lifelong visa. That is, he can come and go into India whenever and as he pleases. Okay, he can come to India, he can go away from India just as he pleases to. So since he is a foreigner, okay, since he is a foreigner, he whenever whenever he wants to come to India, he has to report himself to the FRRO. Okay, that is the Foreigners Regional Registration Officer. So he has to go to the FRRO, okay, the Foreigners Regional Registration Officer, and tell them that okay, I've arrived in India and I'm an OCI. So he has a lifelong visa. All right. But there's an exception over here, which is very, very important for your prelims. So in case you are an OCI, okay, if in case you want to get an OCI card for India, you cannot be a person, you cannot be a citizen of Pakistan, or you cannot be a citizen of Bangladesh. Apart from this, if you're residing in any country, okay, you have an Indian lineage, okay, you're interested to maintain your relations with India, you will be given what is known as an OCI card. That OCI card will allow you to have entry into India at any point of time. It's going to be a multi-purpose lifelong visa that you can use to come to India. And after coming, you can easily just tell yourself that you can go to the FRRO, okay, and you can tell them that I'm here. All right, so you just need to announce your arrival. So now we will be discussing about the PIO, the persons of Indian origin. Okay. Now the PIO is actually the same person as an OCI. Okay. He is the same person just like an OCI. The only difference is that a PIO will at some point of time he has remained an Indian citizen by himself. So say a person has gone from India to say America, he's left Indian citizenship, okay, he's become an Indian citizen, he's become an American citizen, and but he still wants to hold his get in touch with his Indian lineage. So the whole point is that an OCI will be given a card. A PIO is such a person who has at any point of time held an Indian passport. He has held an Indian passport himself. Okay. Okay. He is a person who according to the Government of India Act of 1935, okay, so according to the Government of India Act of 1935, four of his generations, okay, have resided in India. So 4 generations have resided in India, but this person cannot be from countries like Iran, like they are literally all the neighbors of India. So you cannot go and stay in Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Nepal, China, Bhutan, and Sri Lanka. Okay, so there's an exception to this case too. So we allow a person who's staying in Burma. Okay, we are allowing a person to be a PIO if he's in Burma, that is Myanmar. I'm pretty sure you must be knowing that. So of all India's neighbors, India is allowing a person to go into Burma, take its citizenship, and still apply for an OCI card, but the rest of the people will not be allowed. Now the difference, what is the difference? Now you have to understand that all these people are allowed to have a PIO, but they have to refresh this PIO card for after every 15 years. So after every 15 years, they have to go to the FRRO, okay, he has to go to the FRRO and refresh his card. Okay, in case this person has stayed in India for more than 180 years, okay, for more than 180 days, he has to go again to the FRRO and inform them. So if you can understand, a PIO technically has limited rights as compared to an OCI. Okay, he has limited rights as compared to an OCI. That we can understand over here. Okay, so also an OCI has permanent, lifelong, multi-purpose visa. Okay, he can just go and tell the FRRO once that he has arrived and not more than that. But the PIO has to go after in case he's here for more than 180 days, he has to inform. He cannot, he has to refresh his card. The PIO has to go and refresh his PIO card for after every 15 years. So it's like the passport, that you need to go and refresh it from time and again. All right. Now, let us discuss what is an NRI status. An NRI, that we already know, means a non-resident Indian. All right. It stands for a non-resident Indian. Now, when is a person called an NRI? Now, a person is called an NRI if they stay outside India for a period of more than 182 days. So if a person is going outside, okay, he's staying outside the country for more than 182 days, we give him an NRI status. Okay, now give me a question, guys. Is he a citizen of India? Yes, he is a citizen of India. Why is this status given? This status is given for only one reason. This is given for the benefit of taxes. It's given for taxation purposes. Okay, and a person can get tax benefits. Okay, so through this NRI status, he can get special accounts in bank. He can deal with a lot of forex. He can keep a lot of forex with himself. Okay, on virtue of this NRI status. Now the question will come, ma'am, can an NRI vote? Can an NRI vote? So if he's an ordinary citizen, right? Yes, he can vote. He will be voting. He will be, voting for the elections of the Prime Minister. He will be voting for the Lok Sabha. He will be voting for the State Legislative Assembly. From wherever he is standing, he will be voting for that. But can I stand for elections? No. this person can never stand for Indian elections. If you remember, so this person can never stand for elections because he does not reside in India. तो समझ लो अगर वो काम करते करते उठ के बाहर चला गया 182 days से ज्यादा अगर वो कंट्री से बाहर ही रहेगा तो वो काम क्या करेगा, right? But because of this reason what we are seeing is that an NRI is a citizen of India. Okay, for 182 days से ज्यादा अगर कोई इंडिया से बाहर रहता है उसे हम NRI स्टेटस दे देते हैं. Okay, टैक्स पर्पसेस के लिए किया जाता है क्योंकि NRI स्टेटस के साथ आपको बहुत सारे टैक्स बेनिफिट्स मिलते हैं, बहुत सारे एग्जेम्पशंस मिल जाते हैं, बहुत सारे बैंक्स में आप स्पेशल अकाउंट्स खोल सकते हो, ऐसे अकाउंट जो आपको टैक्स बचाएगा. उसके अलावा यू आर जस्ट लाइक एन ऑर्डिनरी सिटीजन ऑफ इंडिया, आप वोट कर सकते हो, आप सब कुछ कर सकते हो. द ओनली वन प्रॉब्लम जो आप यहाँ पर देखोगे इज दैट जो NRI होते हैं, right, any person who is given the position of an NRI cannot stand for elections. That is the basic thing that we can understand from this. All right, now let's go forward, and the last topic for the day we will be understanding. Okay, now I will be discussing with you the NRC. So I'm pretty sure all of you must have heard of the NRC, the National Register of Citizens. बहुत ज़्यादा ये न्यूज़ में रहा है, इनफैक्ट अभी भी बहुत सारे चर्चा चल रहा है. So you must have so let's just go back into history a little bit and try to understand. अब आपको ये तो पता होगा that when Pakistan was made, जब पाकिस्तान क्रिएट हुआ था, okay, it was made on a two nation theory. So India and Pakistan had separated and it was done on a two nation theory, right? ये जो theory था, it was a two nation theory. ना पाकिस्तान जो था, ठीक है, पाकिस्तान जो था इट वॉज अंडर जनरल अयूब खान. मैं 1965 की बात कर रही हूँ. सो आफ्टर 1965 पाकिस्तान में एज यूजुअल मिलिट्री कूप हुआ था, एंड मिलिट्री कूप के बाद हमने क्या देखा था कि जनरल अयूब खान जो थे ही हैड बिकम द प्राइम मिनिस्टर ऑफ द कंट्री. ओके, ही हैड जनरल याहिया खान, आई एम सो सॉरी, इट वाज जनरल अयूब खान. जनरल अयूब खान के बाद आ गए जनरल याहिया खान. ओके, नाउ ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड. एट दैट पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम पाकिस्तान जो हमारे पास बांग्लादेश था वो उस वक्त में पाकिस्तान का एक पार्ट था. इट वाज नोन एज ईस्ट पाकिस्तान. So what had happened is these generals had ordered a genocide of the people of Bangladesh. यानी कि जो बांग्लादेशी लोग थे ना उनके अंदर में बंगाली मुस्लिम्स जो थे उनकी तरफ ये बोलते थे, उनकी तरफ एक जीनोसाइड करना उन्होंने स्टार्ट कर दिया था, उन्हें मार दिया करते थे. ठीक है, तो इनमें से बहुत सारे ऐसे लोग थे जो आपके बांग्लादेश से भागकर इंडिया की तरफ आ गए एंड दे गॉट सेटल्ड इन असम. ठीक है, ये लोग आ गए असम और असम में आके बस गए. तो ये क्या होता था ना, बहुत बार लोगों को चकमा देकर आते थे, इसलिए लिटरली इनका नाम चकमा रख दिया गया, द चकमा रेफ्यूजीज. आई एम श्योर आप लोगों ने इनके बात सुना होगा. तो चकमा रेफ्यूजीज इंडिया में आ तो गए बट वापस नहीं गए, तो धीरे धीरे ये असम में बसते रह गए. अब इसकी वजह से आपने देखा होगा कि ड्यूरिंग द टाइम ऑफ राजीव गांधी असम में बहुत ज्यादा मिलिटेंसी होके रखा था, बिकॉज इतने सारे चकमा रेफ्यूजीज बढ़ गए थे कि असम वाले इस चीज को सस्टेन नहीं कर पा रहे थे. इसकी वजह से असम में बहुत बड़ा मिलिटेंसी हो गया था. ओके, और इस मिलिटेंसी के डील करने के लिए एक बहुत मेजर पैक्ट किया गया था. अब ये जो पैक्ट था दिस हैपेंड बिटवीन द देन प्राइम मिनिस्टर ऑफ इंडिया राजीव गांधी. ओके, राजीव गांधी के बीच हुआ था एंड इनके साथ साथ प्रफुल्ल के साथ हुआ था. प्रफुल्ला from the this treaty which was signed between Rajiv Gandhi and Prafulla Kumar Mahant. Okay, Prafulla Kumar Mahant of the All Assam Student Union was signed. And इस treaty से militancy को end करने का एक बात किया गया था. So this treaty was a very important treaty which was known as the Assam Accord. Okay, अब ये जो असम अकॉर्ड बना था, ओके, असम अकॉर्ड जो बना था दिस वाज एक्चुअली लेइंग डाउन ऑल क्राइटेरिया जिससे किसी भी इंडिविजुअल को एक स्टेट का या इंडिया का सिटीजनशिप मिलेगा. ओके, तो अगर आपको याद है एक सीधी सी बात है कि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में ऑलरेडी बोला हुआ है कि अगर इफ यू हैव कम टू इंडिया बिफोर द 24th of March 1971 you are an automatic citizen of India. ठीक है, आपको मैं ऑटोमेटिक दे दूंगा अगर आप बिफोर डेट पे आए हो. ठीक है, बिफोर दिस डेट अगर आप आए हो आप ऑटोमेटिक सिटीजन हो. हम आपसे कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं पूछेंगे, हम आपको सिटीजनशिप दे देंगे. मगर अगर आप इस डेट के बाद आए हो, इफ यू हैव कम आफ्टर दिस डेट, देन यू हैव टू प्रूव योर सिटीजनशिप. तब आपको अपना सिटीजनशिप प्रूव करना होगा। इसी एक्सरसाइज को हम बोलते हैं एनआरसी, द नेशनल रजिस्टर ऑफ सिटीजन्स, राइट। तो हमने ये समझ लिया कि असम अकॉर्ड से एक पर्टिकुलर डेट फिक्स था 24 मार्च 1971। इस डेट के बाद जो भी असम को एंटर करता है या जो भी इंडिया को एंटर करता है उसे अपना सिटीजनशिप प्रूव करना पड़ेगा। परफेक्ट। तो एनआरसी जो था वो एनआरसी जो हमने सबसे पहले बनाया था, राइट, द फर्स्ट एनआरसी विच वाज क्रिएटेड इन इंडिया वाज डन इन 1951। ठीक है, तो उसे तो भाई अपडेट करना पड़ेगा, राइट। सो इसे तो अपडेट करना पड़ेगा। अब इसके लिए एक पिटीशन डाली गई सुप्रीम कोर्ट में, देयर वाज अ पिटीशन इन सुप्रीम कोर्ट, और सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने एक ऑर्डर दिया, राइट। सुप्रीम कोर्ट प्लेस एन ऑर्डर कि भाई ठीक है आप एनआरसी को अपडेट करो, राइट। सो अब जब तक आप एनआरसी को अपडेट करोगे, सारे के सारे जो हमारे इलीगल माइग्रेंट्स है वो तो नॉर्मली घूमते रहेंगे, राइट। एंड अगेन क्या हुआ, क्वेश्चन क्या उठा सुप्रीम कोर्ट में कि हाउ कैन यू से दैट आई एम नॉट अ सिटीजन ऑफ इंडिया। सर आप आर्टिकल 10 को चेक करो, आर्टिकल 10 क्या बोलता है कि भाई यू आर अ सिटीजन अंटिल यू आर नॉट डिस्क्वालिफाइड। तो मुझे तो डिस्क्वालीफाई नहीं किया गया है, तो डिस्क्वालीफाई करने के लिए मुझे डॉक्यूमेंट्स देने पड़ेंगे, इफ यू रिमेंबर दिस क्वालिटी, राइट। तो उनको बोला गया आपको भाई अगर एनआरसी में आना है, यू वांट टू बी प्रूव्ड एज अ सिटीजन ऑफ इंडिया, यू हैव टू शो योर डॉक्यूमेंट्स। अब ये जो डॉक्यूमेंट्स दिखाने का झमेला स्टार्ट किया गया, आप नॉर्मली सोचो एक आम इंडियन आदमी, दैट इंडिविजुअल जो गांव का है, उसे डॉक्यूमेंट्स के बारे कितना पता, कि पूरी तरीके से एक तरह से अर्थक्वेक आ गया, राइट। तो इसमें क्या हुआ, जब भी ये एनआरसी बना गई, 33 करोड़ पीपल अप्लाइड फॉर द एनआरसी अपडेशन। ठीक है, उनमें से 1/3 लोगों ने तो पूरी तरह गिव अप कर दिया। मतलब समझ लो 11 करोड़ लोगों ने डायरेक्टली बोला कि हम तो गिव अप ही कर देते हैं, हम नहीं प्रूफ कर पाएंगे, इतना पुराना डॉक्यूमेंट हमारे पास नहीं है। फाइनली सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने देखा कि आउट ऑफ द 2/3 पीपल जो बचे कुचे हैं, उसमें से भी करीबन 19.02 लाख पीपल कुड नॉट प्रूव देयर सिटीजनशिप, और उनका नाम भी एनआरसी में नहीं था, राइट। इसके वजह से बहुत सारा अप्रोर हुआ था इंडिया में, एंड दिस इज द रीजन कि एनआरसी को लेके अभी झमेला चल रहा है। तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट से अभी प्रॉपर्ली कोई डिसीजन हमें मिली नहीं है एनआरसी को लेके, अभी भी इट इज पेंडिंग इन कोर्ट। So the minute we get an updation, we will be creating a video for that. So guys, thank you so much. We've completed the topic of citizenship. We have covered part 2, Article 5 to 11, and we have also covered all the prospects of 1945 Citizenship Amendment Act. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day ahead.